Hello there, people of the internet. Forgive the voice, I'm dealing with a little bit of a sickness, but I want to come out and make myself a video because this is just something I've had on my mind for, like, a long time now, actually. Anyway, I've always had, like, this fascination with 762 by 39 as a cartridge. It's one of those cartridges that stands out from all the others that are not only in its class, but that are not in its class. So let me go ahead and talk about the cartridge a little bit, and I'll show off a couple of comparisons, and hopefully you guys can understand why I have such a fascination with this cartridge. My personal opinion, the 762 by 39, that's typically a 123 grain-ish bullet around that ballpark, traveling at about 2,400 or so feet per second, and it's capable out for the average shooter about 400 yards or so. Most people are not going to be shooting at basically anything at that 400 yard mark. I don't know if you've ever tried shooting at 400 yards. If you're capable of doing, if you're capable of accurate fire at 400 yards, then you are definitely like not among the norm at all. But 762 by 39 for the average person, most people are going to be shooting targets well within the distances that 762 by 39 has to offer. It's also a 30 caliber round, 123 grain-ish bullet, traveling fairly fast. It's powerful enough to handle most of the things that people are wanting to handle, short of like hunting very large game or something like that. If you're going to go after like really large game, then you might want something that's a little bit more powerful. Not to say that it could not be done. I think that the world record grizzly bear was taken out with like a 22 long or something like that, so absolutely could be done with proper shot placement, right time, right place, right scenario, etc., etc. So we got a cartridge that is powerful enough to handle basically the needs that everyone needs to handle. Combine that with it being capable out to distances that most people would not really be all that capable out to. Anyway, most people, like, you have them shooting out to 100 yards and they already lose their capabilities for accuracy. So we got a good cartridge at good distances, and it handles most situations. Of course, there's always going to be limitations for everything. You're going to be able to find situations that you just cannot handle with particular things. There's things the 762 by 39 can do that other intermediate cartridges cannot, like say a 5.56. And a lot of that has to do with the size of the bullet that it fires. Like a heavy 5.56 is like a 77, 80 grain, maybe an 85 grain. That is still significantly lighter weight than the 30 cal 762 by 39 round. That's a significant difference. Or even like another intermediate cartridge, the 5.45 round. Those right there could be a little bit heavier than 5.56, but even then you're still dealing with essentially a significantly smaller round than the 30 cal round that the 762 by 39 fires. So we have a 30 caliber round with a fair amount of power. There's a ton of different videos comparing 762 by 39 with something like, say, 5.56, or I'm sure you could find videos comparing it to 5.45 and whatnot. Against, like, gelatin and whatnot, like soft targets, they're pretty on par with one another, especially if you're comparing 762 by 39 with something like a 77 grain VMAX round or something like that from a 5.56 rifle. They're pretty gosh darn comparable, but there's way more whenever it comes to shooting things than just shooting gelatinous masses. 7.62 by 39, you just have a lot of mass with that bullet. You're going to get significantly more penetration simply because there's more mass moving forward. There's more energy in that cartridge poking forward. Now, of course, bullet construction, bullet composition, etc., those all have a tremendous part to play whenever it comes to things like penetration, but 7.62 by 39 just has an easier time of doing it. Speaking of bullets, for 7.62 by 39, you're going to have three main bullet types that you're going to find. Full metal jacket's probably going to be your most popular. This right here is the cartridge that the bullet type inside of the cartridge that like most people are going to have, simply because it's the cheapest, most readily available. Like, there's just a lot of pros for a full metal jacket in terms of availability and getting like massive stockpiles of it, which is one of the things people do whenever they get 7.62 by 39. Another very common one you're going to find is soft point. This right here is what I personally use for hunting a good number of times, actually with this AK-47 right there with a scope mount on it and the soft point ammo, that takes deer out just absolutely amazingly well. Ask me how I know. Also a 123 grain projectile. It's basically going to be exactly the same as a Full Metal Jacket, except it's going to have different expansion properties. Up next, we have hollow point. There's certain 7.62 by 39 hollow points that do not expand. They're not really designed to expand. A hollow point, just the way that it's designed, can oftentimes have better ballistic capabilities out at long distances, which is one of the reasons why, like, match ammunition oftentimes is hollow points. Well, the 7.62 by 39 hollow point that most people are going to find, with some very rare exceptions, is going to be designed to increase ballistic capabilities out at long ranges versus expansion. Now, this particular one that I have here, this is hunting grade hollow point ammunition, which is designed to expand. It's got very similar effects very similar effects to the soft point round that I have here. So we got your three main kinds of ammo. I imagine that you could find like tipped projectiles out there, and you could find probably a different variety of different projectile weights out there as well. But these right here should be able to cover like basically anything. I know for a fact that you can get AP rounds or tracer rounds or incendiary rounds, etc., for 7.62 by 39 if you ever want to just go to the gun range and put on some kind of show, or you could just get standard Full Metal Jackets. I know that steel core Full Metal Jackets, those penetrate a little bit better than the lead core Full Metal Jackets that most people are going to have. So if you're going after something that maybe has some thick bone or thick hide, maybe a steel core round will suit you better than a lead core round. So a little recap before we go over the next things. 30 caliber round, capable at distances most people are capable at. It's decently weight bullet, moving fairly fast. We got good selections in projectiles. It's just a good all-around cartridge. Now, as far as the cartridge goes, there's a lot of really good platforms out there for it. I know this AK right here, I take this hunting, and that is, like, honestly, this right here is probably my main hunting rifle, just because the ammunition I have for it is so all over the place, and this particular rifle has served me really, really well. I'm sure you guys noticed there's a 5-round magazine inside of this thing. However, there's various other AK mags that are out there on the market. If you want to go with something a little lighter weight, they make polymer mags for these things, standard capacity. You could use polymer mags inside your AK, like I said, to save some weight, but this turns this hunting configuration rifle into a defensive/offensive rifle very, very easily. If you want something a little bit more robust than some plastic mags, they do make plenty of steel mags out there, or even aluminum mags. This particular one is a slab side magazine. This is a really, really cool magazine to have. Tons of history behind it, and I'm sure that somebody's going to post about that in the comments down below. Looks like a little bit of rust on this thing. I'll have to clean that and oil that before that gets any worse. So we got platforms that are capable for both hunting and defensive/offensive purposes. If you ever have to use your small arms for anything more than just enjoying yourself. Now, the SKS, in comparison to the AK, I've done the math before, whenever I made comparison videos before on the SKS versus the AK, and I think that if my math was correct, you can carry like 50% more ammunition if you carry 7.62 by 39 on stripper clips for your SKS in comparison to carrying it in magazine form for your AKs. Now, the magazines, I carry them like this right here. This is, I think it's a German magazine pouch, and it's very simple. Little leather strap holds it in place. Open it up, you got a bunch of magazines on the inside, so you can reload very easily. You do have less ammunition considering the weight that you're carrying for the AK. However, you have 30 rounds versus your 10 rounds for your SKS. You can get aftermarket magazines for the SKS that hold more ammunition, but that dramatically decreases reliability. So I will just kind of leave that up to you as to what it is you decide to do. Now, on top of these right here, self-loading rifles, if you wanted a bolt-action rifle, there's absolutely 7.62 by 39 bolt-action rifles out there that you can get for not a lot of money. I think like within the realms of like $400, there's several platforms out there on the market if you absolutely want a bolt gun. Now, the reason why 7.62 by 39 and a bolt gun is so appealing is because of price and availability. If we compare 7.62 by 39 to something like 308 or a full power rifle cartridge, of course it's going to come up short. We're comparing a 123 grain bullet at 2,400 feet per second to something like a 308, which is let's call it a 150 grain bullet at about 2,800 feet per second. So heavier bullet traveling faster, it's going to have more energy. However, this right here is still powerful enough and capable enough for doing most of the things that people need to do. The 308, that's good if you're shooting out beyond 400 yards. It's like if you're going to long distances, then maybe 7.62x39 would not be right for you. But like I said before, if you are doing that, then that is definitely not the norm. That is something that is a very not common thing to happen. So if you need something that has more power or more capabilities going after large game, long distances, etc., maybe a 308 would be right for you. But we still have that 30 caliber round traveling fairly fast and has fairly decent capabilities, especially with proper shot placement, especially within that 400 yard mark. So these right here are going to be lighter weight than something like a 308 round. They're going to be easier to transport, and they're also going to be significantly less expensive. So if you're hunting and you want a bolt-action rifle, then get yourself a 7.62x39 bolt-action rifle, and you'll be able to get ammunition that has less recoil. You can carry more of it because it's not going to be as heavy. You can find it very availably. This stuff is literally all over the world. And you can get it for a lot less money. As of time of recording this, 7.62x39 is about 40 cents a shot versus something like 7.62x51/308, which is like 75-ish cents a shot. So dramatically less expensive, and if this is powerful and capable enough to take care of the things you're going after at the distances you're going after, then it's kind of a no-brainer. This will pay for itself. If you want to go out and spend $400 on a 308 rifle versus $400 on a 7.62x39 rifle, well, after a couple of hunting seasons and a couple of range trips, the amount of money you'll save on ammunition alone will pay for the rifle basically immediately. Okay, this is just a couple of things I had on my mind whenever it comes to the 7.62x39 cartridge, and I wanted to go ahead and cover it. The cartridge is phenomenal. It is such a good cartridge, especially comparing the platforms that it comes in, the capabilities of the cartridge, and how it is just the most capable cartridge. It has the most efficiency for what most people are needing a cartridge to do. Combine that with the extremely low price point, and it is such a good option. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below is a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garrett. Shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.